Coming up on this episode,
CISA's primary goal is securing the federal government space and also all of our critical infrastructure. So that covers all the federal government outside of DoD, because obviously the Department of Defense, they can secure their own stuff. But then in critical infrastructure, we're talking to and touching a ton of private sector entities. So because of the way the United States infrastructure works, and when you're dealing with critical infrastructure, that's really where we have that nexus of hardware and software coming together.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Best8a Podcast. In this episode, our guest is Justin Forbes. Justin leads the critical product services at CISA, and he founded Best8a, a virtual cybersecurity community based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
My name's Justin Forbes. I do work at CISA. I am the founder and person who started Best8a, and then I also have founded a LLC, Rust Belt Security, that I do some contracting work on the side with. Before that, I worked at SecureWorks for a little while, and I worked at CERT at the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon, supporting the federal government when I was there. So I've been working in the security field for almost 15 years now total, coming up probably at the end of this year, it'll be up to 15 years.
And I'm surprised, to be honest with you. I didn't know. Shame on me. I should know. I've been working with the government contracting world for like 15 years. I should have known, but I thought federal employees could not have a company. But I didn't know that a Fed can have a company in the same line, let's say technology guys. I didn't know you can be a Fed and have a company. How does that work?
There are some restrictions on it, obviously. The federal employees can't be at a board level role within or other organizations. We can't be using any insider knowledge we have in our company or any of the intellectual property we're developing within the government in the company. And then we can't obviously be working when we're doing our federal work. You can't double dip, stuff like that. We have to sign a conflict of interest form that's reviewed by the legal team and everyone within the organization. Once that stuff is signed off and agreed upon, then we're freely open to do whatever we want as far as contracting. Now, we can't obviously be going for federal contracts, so a lot of this is much more private sector focused, because anything that involves federal procurement, there could be a conflict of interest there, and so that immediately sort of nullifies our bids on anything for that.
And I heard before the double dip expression. I thought that was just somebody working for the government and working for another company. I guess you cannot support a company that supports the government, right? I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to. I mean, at least the stuff that I do is not supporting anything. It's all very tangential and very interacting with just the private sector. The main thing is, like, within the federal government, one of the main things is you're only allowed to work, like, your time period that you're putting on your timesheet. I work my 40 hours a week for the federal government, and then the time outside of that is mine to do with what I want. And so that's where I squeeze some time in on nights and weekends to do some of the side work.
Cyber type of work, I mean, many of it doesn't matter the time, I guess. It's like programming.
Yeah, and I also like a lot of the stuff that one of the things I do with the side company is very much teaching related. So for a while I was teaching a night class at Carnegie Mellon University, teaching a grad school level penetration testing class. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm developing a curriculum to teach a penetration testing night class for a local community college.
So the Best8a thing is apart from that.
Yeah, so that's completely separate. That is an idea that I had because back years ago in the 2018, 2019 time period, I would get together with some friends. We all sort of work in the computer security industry in different fields. Some people do malware reverse engineering. Some people are just programmers building tools for other people to use. But we would all get together. We would hang out at a bar in the Pittsburgh area. We would have some drinks. We'd catch up. We'd talk about what we're working on. We'd play through scenarios and solve all of the world's computer security problems. And I liked that idea. And I was like, we should do this, keep doing this, and invite more people and get a bigger crowd together. And so in January of 2020, I started Best8a, and that's where the first Tuesday of each month at a local bar in Pittsburgh, we get together. It's open for anyone to join. We have fire talk. We have a bunch of other activities too. So we have lockpicking duels. So we have Nerf guns that we we put trigger locks on and you try to pick the lock off and the first one to shoot the other person wins. We do speed chess.
I saw this lock thing in Discord because I joined and I saw that, so I didn't know that game existed. It's like, it's kind of funny.
It's a lot of fun.
So how is the game? You get into you have to open a lock?
Yeah, so we have 2 Nerf guns, and I bought these trigger locks off of Amazon. So they're legitimate trigger locks that are used on handguns, and we pop them on the Nerf guns. First one to pick the lock off and shoot the Nerf gun at the other person wins. And it always shocks everyone because people will be like, I've never picked a lock in my life. And they can still open a trigger lock that's designed to secure a handgun.
So you guys get together and discuss cybersecurity. That's mainly what you do, right? Why do people join? In order to learn cyber? In order to meet other people?
It's really different for everybody because we have a wide range of people. We have people who are towards the end of their career. They've been in cyber since the very beginning. Like we have one of the people who comes to the meetings is a local information security celebrity, Robert Secord, who wrote the book on secure C programming. He shows up to these events, but then we also have the fresh out of grad school kids that are just trying to find jobs in the field. We have people who are sort of midpoint in their career. They've been doing, let's say they've been doing IT their whole life and they want to pivot into security. So they're coming to sort of meet people. The one thing we always say is like networking is the best way to get a new job. Like all the jobs I've ever had, it's been because I've had someone on the inside pulling me in. And so that's one of the things we try to do is we network everyone together. When people have job openings, they announce them so that anyone that's there can be like, oh, like I'm interested in that. Tell me more. How can I get my resume past that first line of reviewers and get it into the hands of a decision maker?
Exactly. So are you thinking of writing a book? Because you have the profile of a guy who's going to write a book.
Definitely, probably not right now, at least. I still feel like I'm always learning, and so I don't feel like I have enough to put into a book to put out there that would be sort of worth reading at this point.
Oh, come on.
Maybe at some point in the future. Okay. My wife is a English lit major, so she would definitely be the first reviewer of anything I write, because all the side work I do, any reports I do, I have her review them because she's the one that can fix all of my poor grammar.
So I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and I saw the security assessment on hardware. I have been in the business of, technology and government, although I'm not technical, but I have seen that many of the security thing is towards software, not hardware. So you are in a minority. Am I reasoning well here?
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. I mean, I did get started in software. I started at CISA as a penetration tester, testing Active Directory systems, testing web applications, testing software. So that's really where I started. And it was after a while, I sort of got bored of seeing the same things over and over again. So I was looking for something new, something that was going to be a little more interesting, make me have to learn some new stuff. And so I took over a hardware program that the person who was running it was leaving, and they needed someone in the next 2 weeks to replace him. Otherwise, there was going to be no one to run the program. So I took over that program and started learning as much as I could. I started training classes. I go to the Hardware I/O conference in California every year and take a different training class every year when I'm out there. So started with like the practical hardware hacking done by Joe Grand. Did the software-defined radio class last year, and then this year I'm going to be taking the Bluetooth low energy hacking class. And so I've been seeing a lot of things in hardware where it's like, oh, like they're still dealing with things that we haven't seen from the software side in decades because that stuff's all been fixed. But a lot of the hardware devices, they're still using the same technology, the same chips they've been using since like the 90s. So that things aren't really rapidly advancing in that front as much.
Remind me the mission of CISA. And how would that be related to hardware?
CISA's primary goal is securing the federal government space and also all of our critical infrastructure. So those are the two main things we're looking at. So that covers all the federal government outside of DoD, because obviously the Department of Defense, they can secure their own stuff. But then in critical infrastructure, we're talking to and touching a ton of private sector entities. So because of the way the United States infrastructure works, like all of our electrical, water, gas, everything is a bunch of smaller privately owned organizations. And when you're dealing with critical infrastructure, that's really where we have that nexus of hardware and software coming together. And that's in the operational technology networks.
Homeland Security, why is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency under Homeland Security? Wouldn't that be something separate?
Now, I mean, there's been debates about spinning CISA out of Homeland Security. That's way above my pay grade, and that's definitely elected people's problems to solve. I think over time that may end up happening long term because all of this functionality, all of these services that CISA offers, they all were under DHS originally, and then CISA was formed 4 or 5 years ago, and then all of that stuff was put within CISA. Now CISA is still growing, and there's still the chance that CISA becomes its own federal agency outside of...
What type of hardware CISA helps secure?
Really, we're interested in everything. So that includes all of the hardware, like networking gear that's deployed within both IT and OT systems. We're really concerned about anything within an OT network that has the ability to control like the flow, pump rate of water for wastewater and water plant, electricity, any controls there in your power plants. It's about both the ability to control it and the ability to manipulate what's being reported back. Because if the controls are sending it 100%, but they're only reporting back that they're sending it 50%, that's also a major problem. Because then if the operator needs to increase the amount going through, they can't because it's already at 100%.
So it's related to energy, like electrical, let's say, infrastructure. What else? What other industries?
Pretty much any of the critical infrastructure sectors. So it covers everything. Now, obviously, there are some sectors where other federal agencies have more interest in. So like the TSA is responsible for like oil pipelines and stuff like that. But we're also happy to help and partner with other federal agencies to look at these devices. Same thing with like all the energy stuff. That's Department of Energy handles all the electrical transmission and testing of electrical devices. But we're happy to partner and work with them and help them with certain things too. Same thing, medical devices, that falls to the FAA. Or FDA rather, and so we're happy to work with them. The real big thing with CISA is we're happy to work with everyone in the federal space. Like we believe collaboration is key.
Okay, how about your own company? Who are your customers and what are the services? Is cyber for hardware or cyber for software or what is it?
Yeah, so the company that I started is Rust Belt Security. It's really just a general contracting company, so I don't really advertise. I sort of get word of mouth referrals from people that know the work that I do and are looking for those services. So a lot of it is like penetration testing services. We do that because I have a lot of experience over 10 years of doing penetration testing. And then depending on the type of penetration testing, I also have a lot of friends that I can subcontract in to help augment my own personal capabilities. The other thing is education and training classes. So I've taught a college level course for CMU. I'm currently working to develop a course for community colleges that's a night course on penetration testing. That is also something that I can offer to businesses. So if they wanted to put people through a 1 week long course, I can compress down a full semester into a full week of sort of like on-site style training.
Any advice for other federal employees on what are the advantages and disadvantages of starting your own company, doing something different?
That's the big thing is really you have to want to do it. Don't do it because you think like, oh, I'm going to make all this money and it's going to be so great, because you realize real quickly that like time is money, and so you're not going to be making the amount of money that's going to be life-changing. It's nice money. It's definitely like the side work for me is money to take my family on vacation.
Do you think that it helps you to be a better federal employee? A lot of times people say that the commercial sector, the private sector is faster than the government. That is correct 100% of the time. I think sometimes that is exaggerated a little bit. Who knows? But for sure, there's something to learn on the private sector that you can bring to the federal sector. Is that the case? Have you ever that actually happened or no?
Absolutely. I think that's very true. I mean, I think the big thing is risk acceptance. The federal government is very risk averse, so they want to make sure things are safe and going to work before they implement them. And then they have to create a whole plan for how they're going to do it. Whereas when you're dealing with the private sector, a lot of companies are very comfortable with that whole move fast and break things. Like, they're fine with that. So you work with them and they want to test more cutting edge things. They want to test things that are brand new attack paths, brand new techniques that the federal government would be very hesitant to use. before testing fully in a lab and having it fully documented, all figured out. So you can definitely learn the stuff there. The other reason that I personally find it rewarding is in the federal government, the longer you're in the federal government, the more you're being push towards management. So the less time you get to spend hands-on and learning technology. And when I do this private sector stuff, it gives me an opportunity to really get hands-on, get technical, and not have to manage people or teams, which is very nice.
Would it be the case then you experiment on the private sector and then with that experience you bring it to the more quote conservative federal government? Would that be the model?
It definitely does happen because there's a lot of things that, I mean, even in the classes I teach, the conversations I have with students and just the back and forth sparks ideas that I can then bring over to the federal side. And I'm like, hey, like, I was bouncing ideas off of a student and I think maybe we need to look into X, Y, or Z. And it's one of those things like I'm always getting ideas from different places. So sometimes it's in the private sector doing that work. Sometimes it's listening to podcasts.
Why do you say, I don't understand too much what you said about the management thing. In every organization, you have management. Why do you say that in the federal government sometimes you're pushed towards management and you stop being hands-on? I think you have both. You have the people doing the software development or cyber or data science or any of those. And yes, of course, some people are more of a manager. Or do you think the government happens more often? Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. In the government, the old model, the model that most people are in is like what's called the GS system. And so the way that works is like there's the 15 GS levels. They all have 10 steps, I think, 2 of them. And so as you work your way up, eventually you get to certain levels that like they're supervisory positions. So you have to have people under you, reports under you. And so those people have to you basically have to spend more of your time managing those people, less time doing real work because now you're having to handle all their HR questions, you're having to sign off on all their timesheets, you're spending more time in meetings, less time doing actual work. Gotcha. You'll still be busy, but the nature of the work, not every technical person is a good manager. There's definitely a different skill set between technical skills and managing skills. And so forcing a technical person to become a manager doesn't always work out so great. And luckily, the federal government is starting to identify and address this issue. So they are creating new systems where you can just be a senior technical person and you don't have to manage people. Gotcha. So they're starting to do that, but it's still in its infancy, and it's probably going to take a good couple years before it finally becomes a mature product.
That's all for today. A big thank you to Justin for joining us. Goodbye, everyone.